Okay, thank you, Sally. Thanks for letting me watch the lesson. What are your first thoughts? How do you feel that the lesson went?
I thought it went well. I liked the fact that it was a chaotic lesson, but it all came good in the end.
How do you know it came good? What do you mean by that?
Kids learned what I wanted to learn.
Okay, so what did you want them to learn? What was the key part of that lesson? What was the key element you wanted them to learn?
So we're looking at recycling, and we made a polymer, which was the slime, which was the scary, messy bit. But the classroom wasn't a bomb site, and the kids weren't a bomb site when it finished, so that was one outcome that was clearly important. And they got the fact that they'd made a polymer, they didn't just make something to mess about with, and they figured out some of the uses from the properties of the thing that they made, so they figured that out. And then...
How do you know that? How did you assess their progress in that lesson?
So we had some written tasks that they did, so during those I could walk round and see that each student had done it. When we were talking about the recycling outcome at the very end, which was the kind of key to it all, we revisited the outcomes.
Yeah.
And I did that random student thing, so I directed it. And because I didn't know the group, because I had all those different colour cards for the smarter kids and the less smart ones going all the way down. So even though I didn't know the kids, I could direct my questions, so I was able to stretch them more because I did the colours of the rainbow, so the least able had red cards, and then onto orange, yellow, green and blue for the ones I really, really wanted to stretch. They didn't realise I was asking different questions to different students, but because I'd planned the questions on my lesson plan, I was able to make sure, and I chucked a couple in for people I felt might not have been paying as much attention as I would have hoped.
Okay, so summarising, what linked to teach standards, what would you say the strengths were? What was the best element, the thing that was most successful in your eyes?
Nobody died? No. They learned what I needed them to learn.
So that's not a teacher standard.
Okay.
Where does it link to teacher standards?
So in terms of AFL,
yeah,
I was able to assess what they'd learned and tick those boxes.
Yes.
The behaviour was very good. There was a little low-level disruption, and we just addressed it straight away. They didn't know me, I didn't know them. So
would you say that was a strength as well, behaviour management?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when I introduced myself, this is me, these are my expectations. Okay, you've pushed it, now you know these are definitely my expectations.
Yeah.
End of. And that was good.
And next week you've got the same lesson again but with a more able group.
Yeah.
What have you learned from today? What will you take away from today in terms of reflections? What's the one thing that you'd like to do differently that you've now got the opportunity to do?
I'd like to, where they were summarising the polymers and the other substances, I got each group to do a different one and then feedback to each other. Because I felt for that group, I didn't know whether they'd have done their homework, and if they hadn't, not doing it wouldn't stop the lesson, so wouldn't hinder the progress. But this group, because it's my group I'm teaching it to, I'm fairly sure they'll have done their homework because they're not brave enough not to. And we haven't got the least able students in that group because I've got the top set, so I can cut all that and each student can do that work on their own then, independently. Yeah. So it'll save a bit of time so we can go a little bit deeper.
So improving the pace?
Yeah, because at the end I'd really like to, there's like a really nice kind of summary video about how they sort the different plastics and like the picture on your bin at home. I've actually got a picture from my bin saying we do want this kind but we don't want that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's where I'd like to actually end the lesson for my guys.
Okay. Now there was a video in this lesson. How successful do you think that was?
it's a shame it was American.
Yeah, I agree.
I hate that. But it was the best one in terms of, or best one that I could find, in terms of it showed you every single stage of the process and explained it and explained why.
And did you get from the children what you wanted to while they were watching that video? Do you think they got as much out of it as they could have done?
I made them list 6 key stages.
Yeah.
And they knew that somebody was going to get asked about that, a random student again.
Yeah.
So they all did it.
Yeah.
So they definitely kept their attention. And as I walked around, I did give a couple of looks and nudges. Just don't forget, I might be asking you.
So how could you formalise that a little bit more, possibly, to get more from that when you redo this lesson?
I'd get them to write more detail. Not just, I want the 6 stages, but I want the 6 stages and why. Because that was the nice thing that the video brought out, was they explained why they did these things.
Yeah. So how might you structure that to get that from them?
I'll give them a writing frame. So, you know, what happened, why do they do it like this, what happened, and then just give them a couple of minutes at the end just to finish it off.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. So thinking about the books from this session then, obviously they've done the lesson. How will you go away and mark the work that they've done today? What are you expecting to find in those books, and how will that evidence the progress that they've made?
So they started off with like the opening thing where they didn't really know very much about recycling at all.
Yeah.
So they kind of wrote some random ideas down as a bit of a starter.
Yeah.
Then they stuck those. They actually wrote in their books the stages of the recycling process. But next week the group will stick their writing frames in.
Yeah.
Then the next piece of work they stuck in.
Yeah.
That was the one on all the polymers and stuff. So that's stuck in as a piece of work. And then the final task was assessing where they were in terms of the learning outcomes and why.
Yeah.
And each of them should have written something different. So when I do the differentiated stickers, the more able guys in the group I've taught today, I'm going to take that questioning further to, right, look at, this is your own bin now.
Yeah.
Explain why the council have bothered to print this out and stick this on every bin in West Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And then the least able, maybe anything that is kind of missing from there to complete that piece of work.
Yeah, okay, lovely. You've talked about how you're going to take what you've learned from today into the next lesson with a similar group. Is there anything else that you've learned from planning or delivering this lesson that you'll take into teaching generally, or is there anything that you feel you need more training or support with? Is there anything that came out of that process?
I think when we were talking about writing down all my timings, that was definitely something worth doing, because I completely stuck to time the whole way through, and I just knew all the time that I was where I needed to be. I didn't feel rushed or pressured, and it was an easy way to check it, just scribbling it on a post-it, so I think that was really good.
Excellent.
And I think that thing that you gave me on questioning, the higher order questioning, because I pre-planned the questions in the lesson plan. I didn't have to sit there and read it, I knew what they were.
Yeah.
But because I pre-thought of those, that was a very useful thing. So I think
you do that in future lessons?
I do that in future lessons. Yeah, I mean that's now something that I will just adapt and do, just like it's part of my little routine then.
Yeah.
This is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I expect. Underline the title, underline the date, all that parrot stuff that they know.
Yeah.
That's going to be something as well. Yeah, I think.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thoughts. How do you feel that the lesson went?
I liked the fact that it was a chaotic lesson, but it was
good. What do you mean by that?
Kids learned a bit, but the classroom wasn't a bomb site, and the kids and they got the fact.
How did you assess their progress in that lesson?
That each student had done it. One kind of key to it all, we revisited the random student thing, so I directed it, because I had all those different colour cards for art ones going all the way down.
Sorry, well I did it. We won't go long.
Even though I didn't know the kids, I could direct my questions, the colours of the rainbow, so the least able had red cards, asking different questions to different students, people I felt might not have been paying as much attention as I would have hoped.
Okay, so what was the best element, the thing that was most... That's not a teacher standard.
Okay.
Where does it link to teacher standards?
They didn't know me, I didn't know them.
So would you say that was a strength as well, behaviour management?
No, you know, there's definitely my expectations.
Yeah.
And
opportunities to do.
I'd like to, one and then feedback to each other, because I felt for the homework because they're not brave enough not to, and can go a little bit deeper.
So improving the pace.
Yeah.
In this lesson, how successful do you think that was?
It was the best one in terms of, well, the best one that I could find, and explained it and explained why. Because
and did you get as much out of it as they could have done?
I made them, yes, they definitely kept their attention, and I might be asking you.
So how could you formalise that a little bit more, possibly, to get...
Explain why they did these things.
Yeah. So how might you structure that to get...
What happened, why do they do it?
What are you expecting to find in those books, and how will that evidence the progress that they've made?
Then they've stuck those, that was the one on all the polymers and stuff. The more able guys in the group I've taught today, is your own bin now.
Yeah.
Explain why the council have bothered. The least able, maybe anything that is kind of missing from there to complete that piece.
Take what you've learned from today into the next lesson with a similar group.
When we were talking about writing down all my timings,
yes,
that was done on a post-it, so I think that was really good.
Excellent.
And I think...
Do that in future lessons as
I
well.
do that in future lessons. Underline the date, all that parrot stuff that they know,
yeah,
that's going to be something as well.